One thing I can say is that Bandai Namco continues to impress me. I didn't know what to really expect from this DLC, but I can tell you that I wasn't disappointed. This DLC surprised me in many areas that I really think that it wouldn't, but in the same time, it kind of left me hanging in some. Not really disappointed me, but kind of left me hanging in some areas where I kind of wish that there was more. With that being said, I still think that the DLC is one that's worth checking out, Bardock fan or not. It gives you a good retelling of a story. It gives you good side missions. And overall, man, it's a good playthrough. So if you're interested in it, I definitely say go ahead and buy it, purchase it. It's more than worth it. You're going to get more than the value of your money. Now, they start you off as Bardock, and of course you got your squad with you, which are these two, the guy and a gal. Then you got your partners over here. And you're there on the planet conquering it under Frieza's orders, right? So when you start off in the game, they're going to start you off with Bardock on planet Vegeta. In this area or section here is more sort of like the hub or the command center of planet Vegeta. This is where you have your lunch at, and as you will look around in the back, you'll see that there's a couple of Saiyan space pods that's actually getting ready to take off for, you know, their next mission, which I thought it was really dope that they added that into the game, because they didn't have to. That's just a little, you know, extra detail or something they decided to throw us, right? So looking at the Bardock character himself, when he moves and he flies around, you see he has, you know, hair movement, sort of like what Kakarot has in the main story mode, which I thought was a nice little insert. And as you see here, they just have like different things. There's Saiyan spaceships. Of course, there's a side mission that's over there. Of course, you can collect orbs. And another thing that they added in, of course, was fishing. What would a Kakarot game be without fishing? So this is just basic. Of course, you got to do a couple of them for side missions. Nothing that's really too exciting. Just the same old, but hey, it's here. So in the original story, you get to fight robots from the Red Ribbon Army and henchmen. On here, you get to fight against little green Cybermen. Now, I get it. The only other thing you really could have fought against was other Saiyans, right? So they had to put something in here to give you those, you know, run-ins when you're out searching and exploring, to give you that same Kakarot Dragon Ball Z feel. And I mean, the Cybermen are pretty interesting enough. They're not complete weaklings. They're a nice challenge. So I didn't really mind fighting them, but they were all right. Now on to what I love about Kakarot the most is exploring, right? So now I get to go around Planet Vegeta, see what the other Saiyans are doing, and just get more involved with the environment. So here I'm looking around, I'm searching for any kind of collectibles or anything, and this is what I see. I see a Saiyan over here doing a push-up or push-ups. This is very similar to seeing the space pods take off. For me, it's not really that much of, like, you know, Saiyans being creative or doing something out of the normal, but for me it was good enough. And this was a douchebag that I ran into. He was a complete jerk, man. His side missions had me doing dummy missions, running around, you know, go and collect this, bring this back, and if you didn't, then he threatened to tell Frieza on you because he had like a high ranking, basically just like Frieza snitch. Now after that, I go and venture off to explore more of the landscape and the environment, and what do I see? Space pods being launched again. Something they didn't have to do, but they did. I thought that was really dope. And as I continued to explore, what did I find? I found this little machine retrieving some of the fallen space pods that may have been out of sync and didn't land back at the hub like they were supposed to. Like I say, didn't have to, but they added it in. I just appreciate their creativity for adding different things into the game. So this next one, which was slightly interesting, like I say, it wasn't really like super high points. It was just something different that the game was doing in this DLC, and I appreciated it, because in the Dragon Ball Kakarot's original story, there isn't much to do under the water. So for them to have this little pipe to go in through, I thought it was a nice insert. Even though it wasn't anything in there when I got in there, I still think that it was dope for the fact that they gave you the option to do so, to just go in and search for something. So now speaking about side missions, this is one of the side quests where Tora starts a battle with these Saiyans, or vice versa, and then we got to fight and teach him a lesson. That was actually a really nice fight, something a little bit different to kind of change up from playing the story mode a little bit. So I had a really good time with that. Another one was when they're all outside and they are greeted by the Ginyu Force. And what the Ginyu Force is doing is trying to find new recruits, but they end up just being the rivals because there's 5 of them and there's 5 of them. So you have Bardock's group versus Ginyu's group, and of course Ginyu is stronger, but he considered them rivals because they're really strong. If they keep on training, then they'll be able to, you know, match them and basically just give them the workout in which they're looking for. Now here we have one of the lower tier cutscenes, which still looks good in the game. There's no complaint here. It's just something to kind of transition from one point of the story on to the next one. But then shortly after this, they give us one of the more major cutscenes where the game looks even better. And this is where we have this scene here, where they go to, I forget the name of the planet, where Bardock goes to search for the power or the ability to be able to predict the future. And this is exactly what happens on this planet. We all know the story, we're all familiar with it. The cutscenes look absolutely amazing, and I just loved it for that, man. So every time that the higher tier cutscenes came on and I was involved in the story, I absolutely loved it the same way that I did through the Kakarot. I don't think they pulled any punches here. I think they did and told the story the way that it should have been told, to really kind of immerse the player into basically being Bardock. And I thought that was good. So we all know how it goes, right? Bardock goes back, wakes up late, his squad's already gone to the planet. Frieza sends his henchmen, which are these 2 knuckleheads, to help wipe out Bardock's group, and Bardock basically has to avenge those who they just killed. Now, the visions. The visions were a very high selling point for this DLC for me, and I didn't even know they were in there until I played it, but the visions were dope. But the next most exciting thing I want to speak about, apart from the visions, were the combat system, or is the combat system, or was the combat system, because Bardock has boss combos right out the gate. You don't really have to upgrade anything, you ain't got to do nothing. He just fights like a boss right out the gate, and I absolutely loved it. Now later on, he did have an awakening skill that was called Saiyan's Revenge or something. I cannot remember the name of it to save my life, but it was sort of kind of like potential unlocked in the Tenkaichi, no, not Tenkaichi, but the Budokai 3 game, where everybody could put on potential unlocked, and that's kind of what Bardock's is. And it's a nice, you know, transformation, but it, you know, it doesn't really add much to his physical appearance, but it does add for like a power-up or a cool glow to let you know that you're transformed. So fighting with Bardock, man, was dope. I like the enemies. They were interesting enough. You had some, like my man who just had the red glow around them, who were harder than the original henchmen. Then you got to go against Dodoria. Why did I care about this fight? It's because Dodoria is a bully, right? Remember him from Namek in the original Z series. So here Bardock gets to go against him and gets to bang one-on-one. So I enjoyed this fight. I enjoyed knocking him upside his head. But instead of finishing him off, Frieza calls him away and Frieza steps out himself. And when I tell you the fight with Frieza was probably the hypest fight that you gonna get probably out of all the DLCs, in my opinion, next to Frieza, or Golden Frieza rather, Frieza got some stuff for you in this DLC. I mean, things you never would have seen or would have thought. But this is also the first time we get to fight Frieza in his little space pod form, you know, as well. So in wrapping up, I give this game a solid A. I think it did a good introduction, how it was a smooth intro, how it built in the middle from your squad and side missions all the way to the end to where you fought Frieza. Everything, man, from cutscenes, graphic, it was just beautiful. Combat system was amazing. So I can definitely recommend this game to anybody who has the Kakarot game already. This is one that you do not want to miss. Now, before I get out of here, I gotta add spoilers, turn off now. Spoilers, turn off now. If you're still here, let's go ahead and rock into the second segment of this DLC, which I didn't even know what was in here, or I didn't know that this was in here. When I seen it on YouTube and I watched other reviewers, I was like, man, who really cares to play with a kid Vegeta? Like, that's the most trash thing that you guys could have even created or thought about putting in a game. When I played this DLC and I played with Vegeta, especially at this moment with the training suit on and with his tail, but look, the combat system all in itself says enough. Vegeta was another one who had dog combos right out the gate. Then you got to see Nappa with his toupee in the earlier stages of his life. There were just many things, man, that just really brought back like a lot of nostalgia, kind of even more of an introduction and a deeper dive into the Dragon Ball story, right? That we've never really seen before. So right here you get to get the rivalry between Kui and Vegeta at such a small age, which we didn't really know much about in the Dragon Ball Z series because we just see them as adults, and Kui's kind of like, you know, messing with Vegeta. We don't really, you know, understand why, besides the fact they don't like each other. But here, you know, you get to prove like who's the strongest. You get to go up against Kui as Kid Vegeta. And when I tell you, man, like, you got something to prove, you got something to prove. So I put it on this Punk, man, smashed him down. Absolutely loved the battle. Couldn't wait till it was over and got to see what was said and how Vegeta got the brag and Kui walked away, you know, with the doo-doo face. So after that, you're given orders to go conquer a planet under Frieza's instruction. And here it's kind of the same thing that Bardock was doing. Like, it's not really too much in the area or even on the planets, but you get to explore with Vegeta, which is something I like that they put in here. We're not going to really spend too much time talking about the Vegeta addition because it's just so minute to the whole Bardock story, though it was nice for them to include it in here. So bringing everything to a close, if you are enjoying the Kakarot game, I definitely say go ahead and buy this, man. It's a nice branch off. It's a nice extension to the game that gives you a little bit more, right? So we have a lot of bonuses as far as the boss battle with Frieza, which is definitely top tier. We got to play with Kid Vegeta, which is something we've never done before. We got to visit Planet Vegeta and explore, which is something we've never seen before. Seeing the Saiyans kind of interact with each other or kind of off doing their own thing. They had a nice retelling of the story, and they also had nice sub missions, which were a little bit above average, some kind of funny and humorous, but I found them, you know, to be, you know, a nice deviation away from the story to give you a few laughs here and there. Now, is this a perfect DLC? Not by a long shot. So there were still things that didn't really sit well with me. Like, for example, once you beat the game and as a post game they took you back to a certain time with Bardock where you got to explore the world again and this, that, and the other before he fought Frieza. But it should have continued with Prince Vegeta, right? Because Bardock is dead and Vegeta's the only living Saiyan at this point next to Nappa and Raditz, where his story should have kind of went on for some type of post game or sub missions or sub quests afterwards, but they cut that out. And that was fine. I mean, it's Bardock's story anyway, so I understand. But this is Oh No, not another reviewer. Check you guys next time.